Hey everyone, I hope you're having a nice week. Today I'd like to show you one of my games from the World Open. This is the round 8 of the tournament and I'm playing the under 2000 section. My opponent's name is Osvaldo Perez. He's USCF as about 1960 and at the moment I'm sitting at 1886. I'm playing white and my opponent is black, so let's jump straight into the game. So, as always, I like to play d4. It has been my go-to opening since my early days of chess tournaments. My opponent plays d5, knight f3, knight f6, very standard, and now c4. e6, so QGD, Queen's Gambit declined, knight c3, bishop e7, and bishop g5. Nowadays, I pretty much always, in this setup, I pretty much always play bishop g5 because I just got good positions out of this move. So very typical QGD. h6, bishop h4, castles, e3, so getting ready to take the bishop out, and castle. Very standard. c6, so now we're in the semi-Slav structure. So e6 and c6, they resemble the semi-Slav. So we kind of transposed into this semi-Slav positions, with black already being castled. Bishop e2, knight bd7, very standard. So the typical semi-Slav plan is to take on c4, and of course if white doesn't take on d5, you take on c4 and you kind of expand on the queen side. So moves like b5, the bishop has to retreat, and then you put the bishop on b7, a6, c5, so kind of on the queen side. You want to solve the problem of the bishop, so that's kind of what the semi-Slav mainline stuff is, or the main setup for black. Well, let's continue. So I castle. My opponent, in this case, my opponent went into a slight different line, which is fine. b6, bishop b7, and then c5 later, which is okay-ish. It's not the main stuff, but it's very typical. Rook c1, so getting in the half-open c-file. And also, one thing a lot of high or at least masters suggest, that whenever you see a move like b6 and this bishop is just about to get ready to go on b7, you want to actually take on c5, but I felt like taking on c5 in this position just gives black too much time to develop. I feel like it gives black enough room to slide the rook over, and now the rook is on the half-open e-file, so things like that. So I wanted to avoid, I wanted to keep this tension in the position. So let's continue. Rook c1, takes, bishop takes, of course, and now c5. So yeah, now this bishop is getting ready to get on this open file. So queen e2, bishop b7, so far very standard. So all the pieces from both sides are pretty much active except this queen. Rook fd1, knight h5, very interesting, because now the bishops are if I don't trade, if I slide back, the knight will take me. So I think I'm pretty much forced to take these bishops, unless if I want to go into some imbalanced position, which I thought there is no reason to give black the bishop pair, provided like the position is kind of open for the bishop to attack the king. So the bishops can easily create something on the king side. So I felt like trading one of the bishop pair after such a weird looking knight h5 move makes sense. So bishop takes, queen takes, knight b5. In this position, knight b5 is not a good move. When I played it in the game, I think I kind of rushed with this move. My idea was to go knight b5, knight e7, and then create something on the queen side, or maybe bishop a6. I wasn't sure what I was trying to do, but knight b5 by no means is the best move. In this position, yeah, d5 is, I think, the way to go, because then black has to take, and now I'm getting activity in the middle of the board. But anyways, b5, rook f d8. So now this knight is a bit silly. I mean, I can go to c7, but then the rook slides in, and now I'm just allowing... I'm pretty much losing one tempo, or yeah, pretty much wasting a move with this move, it felt like. I just gave black enough time to develop. So with a move like this, my advantage is pretty much lost. Yeah, I mean, the computer is still saying plus 0.3, but I felt like I'm just giving black too much time to develop and things like that. So let's continue. h3. I mean, just creating room for the king. Yeah, it wasn't the best plan. I think a computer move was like to take on c5, but I felt like this is solving the center too early, so yeah, I wanted to keep this tension, some activity going in the middle of the board. So h3, knight h f6, yeah, just going back in the center of the board makes sense. Knight c3. So you see how I pretty much wasted a couple of moves just shifting this knight back and forth, because I figured this idea, knight c7, knight a6, is just, I'm not really doing anything. Yeah, I'm eyeing c5, but c5 is well protected. I mean, if we go into this line, instead of h3, which I played in the game, if we play knight c7, rook c8, of course, knight a6, I mean, it doesn't... I mean, now black has a way to win in this position. I think he has like this rook sack on c6, and then he picks up the knight. So there are some tactics for black. For example, takes on d5, whichever way we take, doesn't really matter. There is, well, we can take with the rook because this bishop is now pinned to this rook. So if we take it with a pawn, knight f4 is strong, but even this move works. Let's say if there was a knight f4, so knight takes. Okay, this move is strong. Okay, you take here, you take, and now, I mean, it's 5 against 5. How do I lose this? Queen e2. Wait, why can't I? Oh, this knight doesn't have... Yeah, so my knight pretty much gets trapped on the edge of the board. If queen here, yeah, just rook here, and now my knight is gone. So yeah, I thought this didn't achieve, this knight c7 move doesn't achieve anything in the position. So that's why I played h3, knight f6, knight c3. So repositioning the knight into the center, pretty much opposing this knight on f6. So takes. Yeah, taking with the pawn here, because if I take it with the knight, yeah, I don't get the isolated pawn, but then black gets activity. So I wanted to control, I wanted to play a bit more dynamic. I mean, now I'm pressurizing e6, things like that. Queen d6, knight e5. So in this position, very interesting, because when I played knight e5, I thought my opponent can't take, because then I fork him. It turns out they can, because they can get away with a little bit of a tactic. So knight takes, pawn takes, and now queen c6. You have these battery trying to mate the king. So in this position, queen f1 is a move, but it's more like an engine move. So I played f3. Queen c5 check, king h2. Yeah, I wasn't sure if king h1 was good, but anyway, king h2. Rook takes, knight d5. Now, if I trade, I think it doesn't lead too much. I mean, black gets a pass pawn, so I thought it doesn't lead too much. But let's look at it. If knight takes, well, bishop takes, yeah, this position doesn't, it just very drawish, and my king is kind of awkwardly placed on h2. So that's why I played 94. Queen e3, very even. So up until this position, even few moves after, we both played pretty good moves. But it gets more and more interesting, so let's look at it. I decided to, yeah, just pretty much ask black, like, if you want to trade queens or not. So I didn't want to resolve the, because if the knights and queens get traded, it's going to be very drawish. 6 pawns against 6 pawns, very drawish, not much happening. So I wanted to hope to complicate the position, and my opponent pretty much accepted that. So bishop c6, rook e1. So now my opponent can trade the queens, but he decided to keep it more interesting. So queen g5. So trying to create something here, like knight f4, and now you're pressurizing my king side. That's why I played g3 to avoid this annoying move. So I thought g3 is fine, because this rook, I mean, he can't really get into the position. I have a really nice knight on d6, really into the black's territory. So g3, rook d8. I mean, now the idea is to maybe play f6 and kind of loosen this knight, something like that. Move the king out of the way from this diagonal, and, like, yes, try to maybe target this pawn at least. Maybe that's why that would be one of the reasons why you would play like a move like rook d8. h4, queen h5. And now king h3 is not the best move. The best move in the position was like queen f2 and maybe go f4, something like that. But king h3 wasn't good, because I was thinking to play like king h3 just makes my king safe. Like in this position, black doesn't really have a check or anything. He can't really create something. But king h3 was not the right way to go. After g5, I have to find king g2. If I don't, then I'm allowing some stuff for black, because the idea of king g2 is if black takes this pawn, you play rook h1. And if they move the king, you take on h4. That's the idea. So this is what I missed. After g5, it looks like I have problems. I played in this position, not seeing like a good move, like rook f1 is possible, king g2. I mean, I wasn't considering these moves. I decided to take the knight. Maybe I got a little bit scared, because this knight I thought was kind of strong and it can create something on the king side. For example, if these pawns get traded and now you have a fork on the king and queen. So I thought alleviating some pressure might be okay-ish for my position. So I took the knight. So already creating an imbalance. Knight against bishop. But it's still about even. I mean, black is slightly better, it's still even. Knight e4. g4. I mean, g4 was one of the moves, one of the top moves. Like it's the third move, but the best move was to probably keep this tension and maybe bring the rook in somehow, move the bishop or something. You gotta activate this rook or move the king up. I think keeping this tension would have been better for black. But he played g4 because now black's idea is to take on e5. So I took. What else to do? Queen takes. And now knight c3. Because I have to protect. I mean, this move does a couple of things. First of all, the queen is eyeing these pawns. The bishop is eyeing a2. So knight c3 I thought it was an okay-ish move. Although this is still good for black because black has a pass pawn, and yeah, if he can trade queens and create this passer, I mean, black can create some trouble for white. But it looks like it's very even. I mean, my king is somewhat close to this pawn, so it's not an issue. So queen takes, rook takes. And this position, yeah, I mean -1, but -1, -0.9, it doesn't necessarily mean black is winning. Black has to pretty much play like an engine to even create winning chances. So it's really hard for a human to convert such an advantage, like having this pawn. And this bishop against this knight, it is better because pawns are on both sides of the board, and a bishop is pretty much always better than the knight. So and positions like this. Oh, let's continue. Bishop c4, rook f2, rook d4, b3, bishop a6. So my position is a bit loose. I mean, now the knight is loose, this pawn is somewhat of a weakness, and my king is kind of in this weird little box. So yeah, I mean, I need to be careful. If these two pieces, rook and bishop, coordinate to somehow do something on g2, I think there will be some problems. So I need to be careful in this position. I play rook f4. So if I trade pieces, for example, I was in this position, I was actually okay with a draw because I thought black has a pass pawn, and yeah, I mean, if I can trade. For example, if they trade, then I fix my pawns. It should be an easy way to hold the position. So rook f4, my opponent played e5. So I'm not... Taking was fine. It was still a draw, but I thought it was harder to draw this pass pawn versus just keeping it like this. So I played rook f5, e4, and now I have... but let's continue. Let's see if you guys can figure it out. My idea after this move was to, yeah, pretty much trade rooks. And if black trade rooks, I'm going to plant my knight on e3. I mean, I thought this was the best way to stop this pawn and maybe somehow get the king closer to this pawn and kind of hold the positions like this. But my opponent played rook d3. So I'll give you guys a few seconds to figure out what's the best move for white. So knight takes e4 is excellent because my opponent missed this idea. I mean, my opponent was thinking, okay, these rooks, I mean, my rook is defended by my knight, so I can't really take this pawn, but he missed this idea. From e4, I can go to f6, deliver a check, and defend that square. So in a way, I'm pretty much indirectly defending my knight by taking this pawn because I have this check against the king. So he missed this idea, unfortunately. So I'm pretty much up a pawn. So knight takes, and now my opponent decided not to trade rooks because, yeah, I mean, with weaknesses like this, knight against bishop should be, yeah, I should win this position because these pawns, the f pawn and h pawn, are isolated. If they were connected, it would be harder, I think. So he decided to go rook e3, attack the knight. So now check, check, king f8, and this position, the best idea is probably to go rook check and play rook a8. Or can I just go rook d7? Let's see. No, I think the best thing to do here is to check, and if the rook blocks, rook takes, king takes, check, and now I'm in time to attack the h6 pawn because this is a light square bishop. So yeah, this was the cleaner way to do this. Because if I go rook d7, after, this is not so easy, because if I trade rooks like this, I'm not in time to go after this pawn. Why? Because let's see. Knight g7, king f6. The king is close to this pawn, so knight here, or even h5, because I can't take the knight as hanging. So this is harder to win. Yeah, if black can trade more pawns, it favors black. So this was harder to win. So very precise moves are needed in this position. Like I had to find rook d8, rook a8. That was the best way to go. And letting these pawns loose, I mean hang, because this rook can obviously attack this pawn, like rook a7, things like that. But the reason why I played knight f4 was because, I mean, I kept thinking the coordination of this bishop and rook is strong against the king. I mean, I have to be careful, like bishop f1, if this rook is on e2 and the bishop is on f1, that would be mate. I mean, my king would be trapped in a little box and it would be checkmate. So I thought knight f4 was a more safer approach. But if we continue with this line, okay, let's play rook here and then move the rook somewhere, take the pawn, and then set up this checkmate. Well, in this position, it turns out black doesn't even have time to create this checkmate pattern. I mean, checkmate simply because I take on a7 and I pick the bishop. So, yeah, move. I mean, black has to move the king, and I take. He has to react to this bishop. So check. King h2. It looks kind of scary. I mean, kind of looks like my king is in trouble, but there's not much happening. For a human, I think it's hard to see this. So rook e2, I mean, king g1, there is nothing. And the position, turns out the bishop is trapped, funny enough. I mean, rook f1, king here. Check, king here. And now this is very awkward because now black's bishop is trapped. So for a human, I think it's hard to see this. But let's go back. So I played knight f4, which is fine. I mean, in this position, knight f4, it's saying black can somehow hold a draw, but there are only a few ways to do this. I mean, you have to find rook e1 first, and then maybe bishop f1 next. So you have to find these moves. Bishop b7. Rook d8. And now I thought since I'm up a pawn, might as well just try to trade rooks. I mean, yeah, if king goes to g7, what's wrong with this move? King g7. Knight here, check. If king here, I think you get mated. Yeah, rook g1 is like mate in 2. Yeah, this is a funny mate. Rook g1 and knight f3. This is... Have you guys ever seen a mate like this? I don't think I have. But yeah, king g7 is not possible, so that's why king e7 was played. I mean, trading rooks is fine. I'm up a pawn. I thought I can play against this weakness. Earlier wasn't so easy, but if you trade like this, now this king is kind of far from this pawn, but it's still not so easy. Well, it's still kind of close to this pawn. Yeah, this is not so easy. There is a way to win this, but it's not so easy. So, check, king e7. I'll just leave the engine on because from this point it gets a bit messy. Yeah, knight d5 was the best move. So trading rooks like this. Or, yeah, because if I trade rooks in this fashion, if the king takes rooks, king takes rook, knight takes rook, and now this king on d8 is far from the pawn on h6, so my knight can jump on f6 or f5 and attack h6 easily. So this line actually is more easier to win compared to the last ones I showed you. If the bishop goes to e4, we still go knight e5. I mean knight f5. Because if the bishop takes the knight, well, now you fix my pawn structure. It's 5 against 4. This should be... Anyone can figure this out. So let's go back. So my opponent decided to take the knight. Takes. So now, going into the rook endgame versus the knight versus bishop, I thought is easier. Why? Because these pawns are isolated, so I have some targets to work with. Meanwhile, I only have to worry about my king protects these pawns. I just have to worry about my queenside pawns. And the position, there were many ways in this setup to pretty much lose your a2 and b3 pawn, and just as long as you can win 1 h6 and push this pawn, it's winning. I mean, it didn't come, and this was a long game. It's game 90. We hit sudden death, so both sides, we've already added the 30 minutes in this position, so this game lasted a while. So it's been at least 3.5 hours into this game at this point. So rook e2 attacking a2. So rook h5, like I mentioned. It's okay to let these pawns hang and just go after this pawn and promote your h pawn. That's the easy way to win. I mean, for a computer it's easy to see all these moves, but for humans, I mean, it's plus 1.6. So I thought rook h5 and leaving these pawns is not so clear. So that's why I played a4. Rook e3 attacking b3. Rook b5, just defending. I mean, again, rook h5 is strong. Just let this pawn hang, take that one, and just promote that pawn. And this position, I think it's much more easier. I mean, this pawn is advanced, and by the time this rook takes that pawn, it's gonna be on e4 and kind of blocking that pawn. So these are some key ideas to keep in mind. If the pawn was here and this rook took the pawn on a2, and then the next thing you know, this rook took the pawn on b3 by a move like rook b2, rook b3. I mean, now that this pawn is marching down, so things like this. So rook h5, I think now it's much more better than the previous move. But again, I went more defensive, and it turns out there is a way to hold this actually. There is only one move in the position to hold for black, and it's this funny move, king f8. Who's gonna find this move? I don't know. Like, king f8 looks so weird to me. The idea behind this move is to pretty much go to g7 and protect these two weaknesses. I mean, king f8 is insane. If you play king f6 to go in front of the pawn, well, now b4, and also I have these checks too. Well, b4, and now I have a check. If you attack this pawn, or yeah, what happens if you play rook a3 in this? Well, a4. But if you attack this pawn, like rook b3, then I mean this works too. And if they take, wow, so king f6 with the idea of playing check and then winning this pawn, because at the moment you cannot take this pawn, the pawn is pinned to the rook. So wow, the difference between king f6 and king f8 is shown here. I don't think even GMs can figure this out. I mean, for us humans to understand this idea of playing check is insane in this position, and then taking the pawn with like b takes a4, a5. So I think some super GMs will find this out, like Magnus, but for us, no, I don't think so. So that's why after king b5, king f8 is a nice way to hold. King d7, and now I have to play king a6, and if takes, it's fine. You can win that one, I'll win that one, and it's gonna be 3-on-2, I think. So if we go into this line, well, king c6, I think I can pretty much just slide over and attack this pawn. So let's say takes here. Oh, you can't even go here because this is hanging, so you have to go back. And now rook a6. So yeah, I win this pawn by force, pretty much. That's the idea you have to see by playing a5. So I didn't see this. Yeah, let's go back. Because in this position, if black manages to hold these two against these three, it's really hard. I mean, that's very drawish. 3 against 2 with the rooks on the board, I don't think so. I don't think I can win this. Yeah, black can hold the Philidor defense, things like that. But let's see. I played g5. So g5 is terrible. I mean, it's giving black another opportunity to draw this. The right move is to actually take. Why is this the right move? Let me explain. If you take... I mean, my opponent, of course, he thought if you take, this pawn is like only a few squares from queening. But it turns out the king is on time. Why is the king on time against this pawn? Well, if you draw your typical square, where's the king? The king is inside this box. So this pawn, the king is in time to... is in time from... I mean, from this pawn queening. So, for example, here, 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 and the king is in time to save this pawn from queening. So that's the idea. g5 would have worked if the king was outside of the box. So if the king was somewhere outside of this box, that's a different scenario. Like, if the king was on any of these squares, you can actually test it out yourself if you don't believe me. If the king was on c6 or something, g5 is a good move. I mean, it's still winning. But it turns out g5 is not winning because the king is inside the box, which I found really funny. h5. So my opponent didn't see this idea. He played h5. And now it's still winning for white. Now, king g2. Again, the simple idea is to... play a5, try to win these pawns, and go after this pawn. It's going to be 3 against 1. Really easy to win. I don't know why I don't see these moves. Maybe I was too tired and exhausted. King g2. I mean, it's still winning. It's just much slower. Rook e4. And now I play a check. I mean, I kept not seeing this a5 idea. I mean, as long as I can break these pawns... I mean, how do you save that pawn? Like a5, rook here, take, and now, yeah, you have to see g4, and now you have 2 against, yeah, you just have a passed h pawn. So, yeah, you have to see g4. So, let's go back. So I checked in the game. It's still winning, but it's like... I'm not seeing like easy ways to win. Oops. So rook d5 check, king e6. So I kept going passive. I mean, rook endgames are so tricky. I mean, the right move is to go here and maybe go after this pawn. I feel like this is right. So if you attack this pawn, yeah, rook h8, takes. I mean, you can even check first because this move doesn't work because you have a check. So yeah, if you win this pawn, it's even faster to win. If you check, the king moves forward. Well, the king can move there, but if the king moves here... can I take on h5? Okay. This is... I mean, the king was active, and this rook winning that pawn, I wasn't sure. I mean, it's a computer line to win this position, so... So let's go back, check... I played a bit more passive. And now the king went to f5. I played king f3. So it looks like you can easily play rook d7, but I think even rook d7 is not so clear. Rook d7, king g6, and if you win this pawn, black wins this pawn, you know? So I thought this didn't look clear. I mean, how do I win this position? So let's go back. I play king f3, and now this gives yet another opportunity for black to hold the position. He has to find this move, rook b4, and he does. Rook b4, rook check, and now the right move was to go to g6. So on all these drawing chances that black has to pretty much keep the king as close to these two weaknesses as possible. That's the only way to draw the position. But I'm sure he was also tired and not... yeah, in this position, similar to earlier, like the king f8 move, king g6 going towards these pawns is the right way to draw this position, and probably just shuffle the king, or... yeah, as long as this rook is on the forward rank, I think it's fine, because now my king can't advance, and now you have control over g4. I can't even play g4, so I think playing a5 and just keeping this rook here or shuffling it, something like that, would have worked. I mean, let's see, king g6. I mean, what else? If you trade rooks, you go back. If I move the rook, you repeat. So that's, if I move the king, you go to rook g4. If I move the king, you just shuffle the rook on the forward rank. This is the best way for black. I mean, black had this opportunity to hold this position, but it was very easy to miss. So let's go back. So king e6, unfortunately. Rook b5, rook d4. Because this trade, I think it was winning for me. If he takes, and now I can play g4, king here. Yeah, even g4 is winning. I mean, black is in a zugzwang. Takes, king g3, and now what? Black is in a zugzwang, so I thought this is winning. Yeah, I mean, I can lose these pawns and just go after these pawns and just promote that one. That's the idea. So let's go back. Rook d4, king e3, still winning for white. Rook g4, and now, I mean, I thought this was clever because I knew my opponent would play king g4, but I wanted to reposition my king on f2, and you'll understand why in a moment. So king e3, rook g4, and now king f2. And you'll see why I did this. Why I didn't want my king to be on f3. Rook d4. And now finally a5. After so long, a5. So takes, rook b4, rook a6, check. I thought it was very important. I mean, even rook takes a7 is winning, but rook a6 is more nicer. Rook a6, you can go to f5 because of, I mean, I pick up a7 and then f7 is hanging. So, I mean, yeah, my opponent just won back. So takes with check, king moves up, so check again, king e7, and now rook h6. And rook takes b3. Now you guys understand why I did this triangle, why I did this maneuvering with the king. Because rook takes b3 doesn't come with check. And this position, this tempo may have not mattered much, because I was going to win h5 anyway. But in some positions, this idea of like losing a pawn without a check is very important. I mean, it's a matter of wins versus draws or even losses. So rook takes b3 does not come with check. That's the idea. Now rook takes h5. Now it's 3 against 1. It's still a bit of work to do, but I thought this was really nice. I mean, I knew for a fact this has to be winning. It's just 3 against 1. So king f8, rook h6. So I'll go a little bit faster. King g7, rook f6, rook a3. I mean, my opponent is just gonna wait. What else to do? He's just has a one pawn versus 3. I mean, king g2, rook b3, king h3, rook a3, king g4. If you check me, I'll go rook f4. That was the idea of rook h6, rook f6 to go to rook f4, and yeah, bring the king in this way. Rook b3, rook f4. I mean, my opponent is just winning. Rook b4, rook c3, h5. I mean, what else? You gotta push these pawns. Rook c6, king f4, rook a6. And g4 wasn't like the best way to win. But I think it's still okay-ish. G4 was one way to win this, but it's not like the best way. Rook c6, rook f5. If you check me, I'll just go up and I'll use my rook to shield the king, kind of, and kind of time these pawns to push. I want to time these pawns in the right moment. I mean, I don't want to just push them randomly. I want to coordinate my rook and king to help each other, or to avoid this rook from checking the king all at once. So something like that. So rook c1. So now my opponent is trying to check me from the back. I play rook or h6 first. If king g6, I think I have a check, and then let's see. If king g6, check. King h7, here, and g6. Okay, it leads to a similar position, but let's continue how I played it. h6, king h7, I play rook f5, because after check, I wanted my king to kind of move forward, and now I have some squares to work with for my king. So I thought I still did an okay-ish. I mean, endgames are pretty hard. King g8, rook f6, and now like I'm trying to push these pawns. g6 is my next idea. Rook f1, king g3. I mean, if I run this way, I mean, this rook will continue to check me, and my rook is not in time to like block the check. Maybe if I go here and block, but I thought this rook goes to g1 and he starts to attack g4, so I have to play king g3. And now rook e1, and now g6. So yeah, I have to create a 2 against 0. I mean, that's the only way to win. Takes. Rook h7. So don't lose the last pawn, because if you lose the last pawn, it's a draw. I mean, black can hold the position if it's one again. Yeah, one pawn and a rook against the rook is pretty drawish, for as long as the king is in front of the pawn. Rook h1, and now g5, of course, because you have to protect this pawn. Rook g1, king f4, check, king moves up, check, king slides, check, king moves up. So you kind of have to do this zigzag. If the rook is checking you, just do the zigzag pattern. That's how you get away. Rook g1, and now check, king g8, check, king h8. So now there is only one move to not fall for a stalemate. If you play like king f6, then this is insane, because the rook can actually keep checking the king. I mean, no matter where you go, the rook can pretty much constantly check the king, or even take on h6. If you take on h6, you take the rook, it's a draw. It's a stalemate. So there is only one way to win the position after rook g7, king h8. So you have to play rook g6. You have to give this king some room. Otherwise, you'll fall for a stalemate. Rook g6. So I was like, I had to be careful. King h7, king f6 now. Now it's different. It's no longer stalemate, because the king can shuffle back and forth. So now, if he had checked me, I would just bring the rook over and yeah, try to promote this pawn. Yeah, this is also winning. So rook d1, trying to check me from this side or something. Rook g7. King h8. Rook g8. King h7. And now, how do you win this position? I'll give you guys a few seconds. So you have to think about this. What's the easy way to win this position? And it's, of course, it's white to move. G6. Dropping this pawn is fine. So in the game, I calculated all of this. I think it's like 7 moves. Yeah, about 7 moves, and it leads to promotion. So yeah, in the game, I was proud of myself because it's been already close. I would say this game lasted over 5 hours, so we've definitely passed the 5-hour mark. So I was proud of finding g6 after 5 hours. So king takes. Yeah, king takes h6. Check. You have to play this check. The only move, king g5. And now g7. Check. The only move, king f8. Because if you move, if you move to g8, then I think black wins. Let's look at it just for fun. King g8. Well, it's a draw. Because now you have to play rook h6 or king f8. So rook h6, and now you play king h8, and now even if the rook takes a pawn, it's a stalemate. So a funny stalemate. Yeah. So rook check, king f8, the only way to win. King f6. If you promote to a queen, then you lose the game. So rook d8 would be checkmate if you promote. So don't promote. Instead of promoting after king f6, you play rook h6. And yeah, my opponent has to pretty much play king g5 or something. After king g5, now you promote. Check. In this position, my opponent resigned. I mean, he took a few seconds and then he realized, yeah, this pawn is pretty much promoting. And in this case, lucky enough, after promotion, I don't have to go into this battle of rook versus king, because if you take my rook, I just give you a check and I'm ready to pick up the rook. So this game was a 98 move game. I mean, in this position, king g5, 98 moves. I thought it was very instructive. It had a good opening, a middle game, things to learn in the middle game, and the end game. It had quite a bit of good information as far as rook end games. And I was I thought I learned a lot from this video, especially end games, something we all have trouble with as. Even players who are national masters, I mean, everyone can learn from endgames. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll look forward to the next one.